love me, and so how am I ever to know? You only tell me, perhaps, perhaps, perhaps. A million times I ask you, and then I ask you over again. You only answer, perhaps, perhaps, perhaps. If you can't make your mind up, we'll never get started. And I don't wanna wind up being parted, broken hearted. So if you really love me, say yes. But if you don't, dear, confess. And please don't tell me, perhaps, 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 perhaps.
There was an old limerick that goes, a lesbian maid from Khartoum took a sodomite boy to her room. As they climbed into bed, it was heard to be said, who does what and with which and to whom. So I'm now asking you, when the election is over, who are you going to get into bed with? Which party? What are you going to do when you get in there? And with the example of the terrible treacherous Tapsul before us, how can we be sure half of your party is not going to peel off and join the winners? Thank you.
I would have put it the way you put it, sir, but I think you're perfectly entitled to ask the question, but I raise one matter with you, and it's this. We have an assumption at a first past the post that everybody has to be in the coalition, and no, that is not so.
I don't think consensus politics is a dirty word at all. I don't think compromise is a dirty word. I do it all every day of my life as a mother. I compromise.
The reality of our politics under first past the post showed us that the day has long gone when you can sign up to an irrevocable commitment.
At the moment, it looks most likely that we will be talking to New Zealand First and we'll be talking to the Alliance, and we will be doing that on October the 13th, because I'll tell you, those three parties will have more seats than will the National Party, the Christian Coalition and ACT.
The problem with the Labour Party is that if we did get into bed with them, there'll be some in the Labour Party who would get out the other side.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Honourable Member of Parliament, the Honourable Pauline Gardner.
I hope to win my seat again, but it's difficult to know.
Which is the constituency?
Right here, Wellington Central. If a party in the normal course of events wins 3% of the vote, they don't get their 3 members in. But they do if they win a constituency seat. I find it extraordinary that New Zealanders will accept that they're going to go to an election and they don't even know who's going to be government. So, if I go downtown to buy a toaster, I go home knowing that when I plug it in, it's going to work. If I go to the election, I want to vote knowing for who's going to work with who.
Yes, exactly.
One of the reasons people voted MMP in and FPP out was that they got sick of party domination. They didn't want the whipping system. They imagined a whole heap of Michael Lawses rushing backwards and forwards across the lobbies at will, pleasing themselves against the party. Well, what a load of rubbish.
Some of you have already met Pauline Gardner, who is our Member of Parliament. Pauline is the one who, when we have problems that income support can't answer and employment service can't answer, we always go to Pauline.
And I can't answer, but never mind.
Pauline has also taken several of our students for work experience.
I do this sort of thing all the time. I catch up with people all the time. I go into shops and talk to shopkeepers all the time. All through my 3 years I campaign, if that's what campaigning is. I get my petrol at a different petrol station each time. If I've got stuff to get at a dairy, I'll get bread at one and milk at the other on the way home. I mean, it's just, that's what you do. If I lost, and it was to Mark, and you say, I don't make these comments personally. I'm not making personal comments.
Yeah, sure.
But if I lost to Mark, I think, oh my God, what a dreadful system this is. Because Mark is not the best MP, not the best person to be MP.
She thought a suit would be more appropriate for tonight.
In the secondary school area, you'll be familiar with what is effectively a scholarship system. I have to say to you, though, I don't think you're going to win this argument as kindergarten teachers alone.
Thank you very much for this. It forces me just to make a few very brief concluding remarks as a male candidate in an electorate that is so dominated by outspoken, opinionated, professional. I mean, outspoken to be complimentary.
He's a very talented young man who's going to have to ensure that he keeps his feet firmly on the ground, and that's our job when we do it. We've done that before. Who really is interested in government. You know, he does believe in trying to help out and be involved. For a young man of 30, he's a pretty tough, ruthless performer, as you have to be to get on there. No one gets on in politics by being nice and quiet.
We are continuing our lead. We have never not been in the lead. And the people, I do know who Mark is, no longer that young man. He's 25%. Alex Shaw is at 23, and Preble's come up to 22.
In one poll.
In one poll. And of course we also noticed too that Pauline Gardner was down to 13 from 18 in the last poll. And Dana Glendinning, surprisingly, was down to 7.
I had a phone message from Dana on the answer phone this afternoon. She wants me to call her tonight.
Good. Let's talk. I don't see that as a natural coalition.
I thought maybe she might be offering to pull out and endorse me, in which case I think, God, no.
There isn't a Labour Party organisation anymore. They're not there. They're gone. And ACT pays their people. Pauline's on her own, poor thing.
That, of all the polls we've seen, right, people have gone up and down, they've been in all kinds of different places. The only thing that's been consistent is that we've led all of them. That's the first thing. And so we haven't actually only seen one poll that has Preble kind of within a bull's roar. To some extent, here's our focus. That Shaw is kind of irrelevant, because if we get back any vote that's going to Preble, I mean, that looks like it'll be enough.
You're totally right. In my view of the 3 arguments we've had before how we can do this, the most compelling one that must come forward is that Preble will be there anyway. You can't deny the fact that it is tempting for a national voter to say, Preble in the side door, waive the 5%, I've got 5 MPs on the right. What we've got to say, and can we research it, find some polls where it is shown in all over the country, 6 or 7 polls, and put them on a piece of paper, at 7%, at 6%,
one poll.
at this, at that. We've got to build a picture that ACT will be there, because that is
right.
It's the only way that people.
The facts are not there though. But that's a very sensible intuition, and I agree with you.
I think that is the compelling one, and the second string, if you like, is that I've been leading all the way. I'm the best one for people to back, you know, in terms of vote splitting. But I agree that's more complicated.
Yeah, you want to do that? Yeah. I might take some water as well.
Can you fold me vertically rather than horizontally?
We've got a new approach to the serious problems, some that amount to crises, with new, fresh thinking. Otherwise, we'll be inflicting economic and social damage on future generations. You want to come in or go out, mate? Sorry. ACT's preference is to be a group of independently minded MPs on the crossbenches, acting as the country's insurance
I think we should actually go out and hit the streets and do what we do really well, which is going around with the flyers, the leaflets, the stickers, the balloons, the t-shirts, the whole 9 yards. So are we keen on that?
Right. Going into term stop, can't we? We're the only party in this electorate that's going from a steady state upwards. All the other candidates have stalled, and if we can just continue this momentum up to election day, we're going to clearly win.
And you people on each side of the footpath is going along, handing out stuff. People who are in the cars will be using the loudspeakers to say, like, absolutely positive, Richard Prebble on the 12th of October, next week, Richard Prebble, da da da.
Madam, can I just do a pencil on Richard Prebble? Madam, can I do a quick pencil on Richard Prebble? You got one? Excellent! See, would you like a quick pencil on Richard Prebble? Would you like a pencil, sir? I trust you will not wait to see the bonus.
Well, the polls say that we've got 3 candidates virtually neck and neck, Thomas, myself and Prebble, but there's an undecided factor there of 19%. Conventional wisdom would say that that's not going to go to the government. If you were a betting person, you'd have to still have me, I think, probably as front runner, considering the polling. I've invested a lot of time, a lot of income foregone. I've invested financially a huge amount in this campaign.
But what do you see happening if you don't win this?
I'll be knocking on the doors of a recruitment agency on the 13th of October. I don't know, I might wind up stacking supermarket shelves, I wouldn't have a clue. But I will be looking for work very, very quickly, because I'll need it. My bank will insist.
They're probably overcommitted, they shouldn't have filled the house or something.
I'm very
The students all around the country are having demonstrations this week against the increasing level of tertiary fees and the increasing indebtedness of student loans. Apparently they've gone. The march apparently has already left the university, so we're just trying to catch it up. You know, there is some people who think that the Alliance should get behind Alec, but, you know, I clearly see Alec on the right of the Labour Party. I don't actually feel that genuinely Alec really supports the things that I support.
Hey, did you guys run a story on Dana last night? That would be extremely kind of you if you could. 3842 749. Last night there was a story about her thinking about withdrawing.
Really?
Yeah, well, we'll see soon the poster faxing story through, but it was only in the second edition, and I had the only the early edition, so but someone told me about it.
So what would that mean for you, do you think?
Well, if she withdrew, it would be good news. 3852,000. I think, one of the real key issues is going to be the whole question of whether or not the centre-left is able to focus on one candidate here. Because if they are, with the Tories focused on everyone, we should have every prospect of a victory.
So why would she be withdrawing?
Because she can't win.
But what's she saying?
She says I'm a right-winger. But however, Dana's political judgment has never been sound. What she says here, that the Alliance candidate for Wellington Central considered pulling out of the race over the weekend to try and prevent ACT leader Richard Prebble winning the seat.
But Dan again, Dunning said today that she'd put forward her nomination this week after talking to National Party people who confirmed their polling did not put Mr Prebble among the front runners. Well, that's crap for starters. I mean, if Dana takes her political advice from the Nats, then she's being very unwise indeed. I think that actually calls for a wee statement. Now's the time. You know, of course the National Party tell her that they don't want her to withdraw. They'd tell her anything to stop her from withdrawing. They'd probably tell her she had a chance of winning. And we don't want to say that too loudly, though, you see. One of the critical things from our point of view is that Alliance people continue to believe that he's going to be the man to make it, because they're falling like flies, Alliance voters.
The decision from the key Alliance people was that if I'm not there isn't anyone that they can vote for. They couldn't possibly bring themselves to vote for National, and they couldn't possibly bring themselves to vote for Labor after what Labor had done. Do you want to do this Cocaine Road one?
Okay, yep.
Have you been in touch with Mrs.
Lawson? I thought I'd do her next week because I sort of feel like getting out and doing things on my own.
Well, we're going to run actually out of manifestos because the real race is between National with the coalition partners of ACT and the Christians on one side, and the left and the Alliance, Labor and New Zealand First on the other side. You know, there is a real battle going on.
Good afternoon, and God bless us all. We have a sister, a mother in our studio, Pauline Gardner. She's the candidate for United New Zealand and for Wellington Central. Kia ora and good afternoon.
Kia ora, Rarete.
What about these Wellington Central fraudsters?
Well, I think it's just one of these side effects of politics. It's just that a number, or probably 6 or 7 by now, constituents have phoned in the last week or so, or spoken to me in the last week or so, saying, ringing to say, am I standing? Of course I'm standing. They say, well, we've been phoned by people polling, and they read out a list of candidates and your name's not on it, or if we say we're voting, we're going to vote for you, they say you can't. And the last one was just a couple of days ago, and she phoned into my office, and this polling company phoned, and when this woman pressed the person, they agreed that it was National Party. It's Access Market Research, which is a National Party polling company.
Okay, thanks very much for your time. Righto, bye. Can I speak with Mary Fogarty, please? Yeah, my name's Bruce. I'm calling from Access Market Research. I appreciate your help with a short poll about voting in the new Wellington Central electorate. Okay, answers are confidential. It takes about 2 minutes or less. Okay, next election's yes, it's a random sample from the Electoral. Question number 1, can you name the current Member of Parliament for Wellington Central? Okay, thinking about the electorate vote, can you tell me the name of the Alliance candidate? Yes. These are all Wellington Central. Can you tell me the name of the Labor candidate? Can you tell me the name of the National candidate? All right, can you tell me the name of the United candidate? Can you tell me the name of the ACT candidate? Could you tell me which party you voted for in the last, the 1993 election? Okay, thanks very much for your time. Righto, bye.
3 National voters, and they're voting for people.
Yeah.
Oh well,
they're turning blind.
Yeah, I know, exactly. Oh, here we are. Well, what happened at about 9:30 on yesterday morning, I got a phone call from the Evening Post asking me to comment on a letter that I'd received from a group of so-called National Party supporters asking me to seriously consider withdrawing. I hadn't, in fact, at that point received the letter, but the fact that the media had kind of got it first made me immediately sceptical about whether they were, in fact, National Party supporters. I faxed a copy to Jeff Thompson, the party president, and then said that I wasn't standing aside. The party endorsed me, the president and the Prime Minister. That's not to say that there aren't National Party people, of course, who don't think I should stand down. I mean, Murray McCully, frankly, hedged his bets when he spoke in Auckland yesterday. There are those who have different views, and that's fine. The issue is who counts, and who counts here are the Prime Minister and the President. They're running the campaign. At the end of the day, they confirm the strategy, and they've confirmed it. Half of the criticism we've had come through the office has been of National Party maneuverings, and people really resent these so-called unnamed cabinet ministers, and I've got no evidence of any of them. And Murray tells me that it wasn't him. But the reality is, his comments were clearly ambiguous. We have differences of opinion all the time in the National Party. We usually do a better job, though, of hiding them. Usually. Well, to my mind, it would have been more helpful if Murray had said in quite specific terms what I'm sure he means. I'm not sure if he actually deliberately is playing games, but whilst he did, I know, say some very supportive things in Auckland, but what, of course, he's also done is said stupid things to my mind, like, well, gosh, it's up to Wellington Central people to vote the way they want. And he is now refusing to talk to media, saying it's a dead issue, and when asked how people should vote, he's saying he's not going to comment. Frankly, I don't think that's helpful, and I've said comments along those lines, although not quite that specific, to the people I've talked to. So, if someone does have any influence over Murray, and I appreciate there aren't many who do, I think it might be helpful for him to continue the line that you and the Prime Minister have been so supportive with.
Well, I'm not suggesting a conspiracy against Mark personally, but I mean, there must be people making the calculation that it would actually work out quite nicely to have Ackland in this seat.
No, but that's treating the public very, very cynically. And in this electorate, as I say, in most electorates, no, we do not treat the public cynically.
Oh, come on.
No.
Every politician does that from time to time, surely.
Well, then you're very stupid, because the public see through it. And there's a great sense of fair play in Kiwis, and always has been.
The sister said she looks like she's dying. She's come back from overseas. She's an addict. She's in hospital, but they don't know what to do, so I'm going to pick up from there. Queen Mary Centre will be the best place for her, but you see, they only take 10 places from Hanma. It's the best place she could go. When I was campaigning in the by-election, the Prime Minister said publicly, if I got into Parliament, he would give me a senior responsibility in the drugs issue. Now, that was just a load of hot air. Richard Griffin came up to me and said, you've got to be really careful about, single issue. I said, what single issue? He's a drugs issue. I said, don't call me single issue. I said, you don't like the other issue I talk about either. I talk about Maori issues. And I said, you don't like that either. I said, is it just a case of that I'm single issue, or you don't like the issues I'm talking about?
Oh, no. It said two Wellington Central candidates, and it meant me and Dana, are in favour of same-sex marriages, and that's not my position. It oversimplifies my position.
So what's this business about you being outed?
Difficult to be outed when you're not in.
What's going on?
I think it is part of a campaign by people who don't support me to undermine me, and there's some gossip mag that made it, in fact, quite a misrepresentation. They suggested that I was a patron of Casper's, which is the gay bar here in Wellington. In fact, I resent that strongly because I've been to Casper's probably 4 or 5 times in my life, and it's actually fairly seedy. I'm partially asthmatic, and it's very smoky, so I would never frequent a place like that anyway.
Where do you think the voices are coming from?
Oh, look, I mean, it could well be people who are just actually having a bit of a laugh, who are just trying to be funny. This is politics. Politics is about compromise and all kinds of things.
It's dirty, isn't it?
It can be, but you got to rise above it. I'm just trying to think of that. What's one of the quotes about? I think Truman said something about always keep on smiling. Don't let the shit get to you. Don't let the bastards get you down. There's some great quote.
You must be starting to feel this personally.
Not for a moment.
I thought Jeff Thompson will read this and he will be so angry.
It's the right message for the sake. Oh, desperate people do desperate things.
Where do you think that's coming from?
I'm not really sure. It might even help Mark.
Yeah.
This is a very liberal electorate.
We're not in favour of enshrining homosexual behaviour in legislation because it is it's a behaviour. If anybody has doubts of that, I can refer you to Exodus Ministries, which has helped 2,000 homosexuals give up the homosexual habit, and everybody finds this a big joke.
Thank you, Robin.
No, if you disagree with their policies, ask a reasonable question when question time comes. Don't interrupt and ensure that they can't present their policies. As I say, I don't agree with most of the Christian Coalition's policies. I won't be voting for them, but I think that decency isn't something that we should dispense with just because we've occupied a registry.
I must say, just by way of beginning, I never thought I'd see Richard Prebble quite so precious as to say that he couldn't be here because you people were engaged in trespass. He's never struck me as such a sensitive soul. I'm interested to note that while Mr. Prebble is unable to trespass, I noticed that he's prepared to send his bother boys here. And while I know that they would attach to him godlike qualities, I'm not quite sure that he is in a position to forgive their trespasses.
If it's somewhat contrived, I don't think that mattered. The visuals would help though, wouldn't they? Well, Mark Moore and Helen Clark are both in town tomorrow at some stage, and we're hoping to be able to put the two of them on a platform or in a venue together. Quite clearly, one of the messages that the party has got to carry to people at the moment is that we are unified in the campaign as a party, and this will be a pretty powerful message. Yeah, so I'm just going to park illegally here and go and get a paper. Jesus, I just don't understand these fucking people.
Don't you need the papers, doesn't it?
Yes. I feel like bloody talking to the Post again, though. I'm getting really fucked off. I mean, I just cannot believe. Well, the headline is "Privilege is closer," which is perfectly true, but everything's got to be seen in context. It was National still ahead when we were within 1% of Thomas. It's privileging closer when he's within 3% of Thomas.
Is Helen coming?
No.
To Pararua.
She's going to Pararua with him. Yeah, yeah, they're going together.
It's a good crowd for Prebble,
yep.
Seems to me.
Yep.
And you read the quotes.
Yep.
What's changed, Richard?
Yeah.
What's changed, mate? You loved Auckland in 1976 when you were in. You loved it again in 1988. You told Sandra Lee
that you'd be back.
That you'd be back.
Where are you?
Where are you? Because
Yeah.
you're not really down here. You're flatting down here, mate. You still got your house in Auckland. You still got everything, all your roots up there. Your partner's up there. You're even voting up there.
Yeah. Here.
That's not Wellington. What kind of Wellington are you?
So we're going to have this photo op between Laura and Helen and all the media are looking.
Yeah, I'll get to the health clinic, mate.
Without a shadow of a doubt.
G'day, mate. G'day, Helen.
If I'd had my way, it would have been here, but the timetables didn't permit it, which was a bit of a bugger. I'm sure you're heartbroken.
They're only
You don't even need to read our lips.
Not on this occasion.
Goodbye.
See you later.
Mate. Bye-bye. G'day, Mike. I'm all right. How are you?
Oh, I'm not laughing.
Just good.
Grab you really quickly and then we'll leave you to it.
Okay.
Now, what is the exact way to get strike and right-wing coalition? Another police media takeover, kids.
Hold out tonight, it doesn't say flash, but it's all right. It's still within spitting distance.
Right, only colour percent?
Yeah.
Oh, that's all you need.
27, 24, 23. It's tonight's poll, so.
Which one are you?
23. No. Well, should we do it?
What does the poll say?
27 Thomas, 24 Preble, 23 Shaw. It's tonight's one. Well, I introduce you and we'll get into it, eh? Hello, my name's Alex Shaw. I'm the Wellington Central candidate for the Labour Party. Mike Moore's here with me to talk to you today.
It came as an enormous surprise to us to find that Jim Bolger was always on the side of the Angels. There is nothing they won't do to cling to power. And they'll cling to power in the most obnoxious and dangerous way for ordinary people.
Therese Anders in the PM's office, this senior press officer who's my main contact, came up and she said, so what does it feel like to almost be an MP? And I said, Therese, I think it's a bit premature. Well, you've got 7 days to go. Let's not get too carried away. Three media commentators have talked about me as the future Prime Minister already, so maybe I'll be Bill's deputy and that would be a nice balance. So, I mean, I'm not going into Parliament to sit on my hands. In any career area, I would try and get as far as I could.
We were summoned to see the president of the party yesterday in his office. That's Bernadine, Paul, Mark and myself. He just wanted to tell us that how supportive he is of our campaign, what a great job we're doing. That's nice. Half an hour we could have spent our campaign, but I'm a great believer in polls, and we've always been in front.
Does that depend on whether you're in front of
You've got to be flexible in politics.
The poll yesterday was, I think, the best possible scenario. Oh, well, I mean, there couldn't have been a better scenario. I think where my vote moved up, my lead increased. Alec dropped back to third place for the first time, and Pauline really is I think right out of it now. And so the choices are pretty clear. The anti-Preble vote will unquestionably, I think, come to me very strongly. There's been a lot of anecdotal evidence that it's coming to me already. I've told you about my other private members bill. There is going to be one standard uniform letterbox for everyone, and it'll be on the pavement by law. It's so frustrating. Not interested? Do you know who I am? I'm Mark Thomas, the national. Very well aware. Oh, fine. No, just wanted to make sure you knew what you were rejecting. Thanks anyway. That would be them. Sir, sorry to bother you.
Yeah.
Are you in Wellington Central?
Yep.
I'm Mark Thomas.
Mark. I see your photo.
Yeah.
Oh, here. Yeah.
Good to meet you. Just out doing a bit of canvassing.
Okay.
I'm Mark Thomas, the national candidate. So, saying hello. Good to meet you too. Thanks. Yes, indeed. 7 days to go.
Fundamentally, you expect to be elected now?
Yes, I do.
Yep. When did you make that kind of decision? Like, really?
Oh, probably yesterday. It changes, Tony. It goes up and down.
Hello.
I'm Alex Shaw, the Labour candidate for Wellington Central.
Hello, Mr. Shaw. All the best.
Thank you very much. Hello. Hello. I'm Alex Shaw, the Labour candidate for Wellington Central.
Oh, I think I've had enough of both of them.
Okay. Hello, I'm Alex Shaw, I'm the Labour candidate for Wellington Central.
However sort of depressed you feel about things, you sort of have to, wash your face and put on your lipstick and go out and be the smiling face, and people say, "How are you?" and say, "Oh, very good, thanks. How's the campaign going?" "Oh, very well." Anyway, one's used to it, but it would be quite nice if... But then you have a sort of nice phone call from somebody who I don't usually get back to them, but right, we're off. Last election, we seemed to have people who went to the meetings early and sort of took the alliance billboards and handed out the manifestos and stuff, and I just sort of rolled up to the meeting, but that doesn't seem to be the reality of life this time. Oh, hi, is it Patrick? Oh, David. Dana here. Am I meant to know something about going to Avalon or whatever, or not? Well, I don't know anything about it. I'm just actually, I just saw Betty and Ray Wheeler out in the street wearing their alliance badges and things, and said to them, where were they going? And they said, where do you think? And I said, I don't know anything about it. I despair sometimes.
Well, today's not one of the good days. Today's a bit of a bad hair day. And in truth, I think for the last week, I guess my feelings haven't been that positive, really. So I've found the last few days, or the last couple of weeks, I suppose, a bit wearisome.
Are you going to win?
I don't know.
Do you have a sort of gut reaction about it?
Well, I'm not feeling particularly up today, so my gut reaction is not enormously positive.
Yay. Lee, wait. No, you settle down, would you? What's the story with you, hey? I've done a hell of a good job for 3 years and worked my butt off, and in the normal course of events that would see me get back into Parliament, but anything goes this time. If I do lose, well, I mean to say there's a wonderful downside to that too. That's a bit of freedom and going home for tea. I get home for tea. If you're too nice, you can't make it. And so when they go on about all this confrontational politics and bully boys and jack-ups and all that sort of stuff, when they get someone who's willing to do something different, they think you're weak, or they think that you're non-existent, or that, all the negatives are attributed to you. Silly, really. And if that's the way people want politicians to always behave, then they'll always get that kind of politician. And that's what they deserve.
It's not so much the information the polls give as the messages they send. And the Evening Post, of course, is playing its usual partial game. Bastards.
Labour leader Helen Clark and the man she deposed, Mike Moore, have had a public reconciliation on the campaign trail, meeting in Porirua for a street corner rally. Our political staff say there was an edginess to their meeting, but Mr Moore didn't back off from raising the leadership change.
Helen and I have talked, worked together, and had differences over the ages.
I'm not very happy with the idea when I'm just starting to get ahead, that you want to tax me more.
I know I've worked tremendously hard this time, and I know that that a lot of people support me, but when it comes to the voting, I know that my vote's going to be low, because people will see it as more important to try and stop Richard Prebble or whatever. So I've got to brace myself now, or try to be able to cope that despite all that work that I've done, it actually isn't going to show up in the result. At the same time, when you're feeling, what are you going to do in trying to avoid, put things in place so that to stop the sort of the pain that is going to be there. At the same time, you've got to sort of, suddenly wash your face and put on your makeup and go and do your bit at some, and be, this wonderful face of the candidate. And, as we joke amongst ourselves as the candidates, and people say, "Oh, how are you, Dana?" And of course you've got to say you're wonderful because you couldn't submit to the other candidates. You're in the depths of despair or something. I just know what it will be like.
What?
And afterwards. And I suppose I'm, trying to. Hi, Dana here. Oh, hi, how are you?
The danger is also that the Alliance vote, without a lot of polling as well, the Alliance vote is collapsing to Alec to some extent, which is understandable. So that is a danger because Alec's right up there, or he was. So talk to all your committees and say, get by the Capital TV, get it on your television set, and ring.
And the number is again?
Numbers again, Graham?
I think it's 38555041.
38555041.
3855041 if you want to take part in our poll or indeed quiz the candidates. Voters on the right are being asked to choose between an impressive young Liberal standing for the National Party, Mark Thomas, and the seasoned campaigner and former Labour Cabinet Minister standing for ACT, Richard Prebble. Only a couple of percentage points behind them is Labour's Alex Shaw. Shaw could still win the seat if voters from other parties on the left decide to vote strategically. Sarah Porter, you first, New Zealand first, you don't want anyone's vote.
No, that's perfectly true. I put out a press statement this morning asking my supporters to put New Zealand first on their party vote and to vote for either Mark Thomas or Alex Shaw for their constituency vote.
Which one would you prefer?
If I could choose, I would have made a statement to that effect. I think that they both do a really good job of representing Wellington. I think that they are both committed to the local community. And I don't think the same can be said for Richard Prebble, which is why I have in fact made that statement.
Dana Glendenning, you would be wise to do the same thing, wouldn't you?
Well, I think that the voters of Wellington Central are educated and capable of making up their own minds without advice from me.
Although you were looking to get out of the race early on, weren't you?
Well, I did consider it, but people said to me that there wasn't another choice if I didn't stand, so I'm there on the ballot paper for them to choose. But
well, there is another choice, isn't it? You're not going to win the race. You're worth about, what, 10%?
Something like that.
Give it to Alex Shaw. He's home free. Labour's better than National, Labour's better than Alex Shaw.
Some people don't see Alex Shaw as a suitable person for them to vote for. And
what's wrong with Alex Shaw?
Well, I see him on the right wing of the Labour Party.
You're on the right wing, Alan?
I wouldn't have thought so, no.
See what the numbers look like at this stage. Well, Alex Shaw, 105. He hasn't done much since he opened the show. 122, though, for Mark Thomas. He's impressed, obviously. Dana Glendenning on 62 and Robin Corner of the Christians on 18 at the moment. We'll come back.
It's got to be a good. Who's fastest on the redial button? That's the
Here's another Wellington Central question. It says, further to Richard Prebble continuing to insist that his book, I've Been Thinking, which you've stopped thinking now. What is it? It's changed the name.
I call
it's time to act. Funny that.
With a small A, as I keep telling the Electoral Commission.
Yeah, right. Further, exactly. And this is very apposite to this. Further to Richard Prebble continuing to insist that his book, As I've Been Thinking, is not the party manifesto and therefore not subject to advertising constraints. Perhaps you could ask him why unsolicited copies. are being sent to persons on the electoral roll of Wellington Central. Also, could you inquire how long I'm being lent this book for? I enclose a copy of the communication from Richard Preble that accompanied his book into my letterbox. And it's true, you know, dear so-and-so, my name is Richard Preble and I'm the leader of ACT New Zealand. I've written a book. Here it is. I've acquired some copies of it and your name from the electoral roll. I can't afford to give you the book. They cost $19.95, so I'm lending it to you. Come along.
That's right.
Are you not going to... how worried are you that after the election you get into terrible trouble? There's going to be a call for a recount because all this is clearly electioneering. You are using your book as electioneering.
The lawyers tell me that I'm way under the campaign.
How many lawyers
limits.
have you had on the case?
Oh, a couple. That book retails for $19.95. I don't know if I should tell you how much it cost to actually get them printed, but it's cheaper than a pamphlet. It's amazing.
How long can she borrow it for?
Forever.
Forever.
And I hope she enjoys the book.
It's a gift.
This rule that if you don't get 5%, if you win a constituency seat, you still get your proportionate allocation of seats. Now, to me, if I was to remove myself, I'd look at it and say that is a very peculiar rule. Why on earth should you get an exemption to the threshold just because you win the constituency seat? But MMP's made up of all sorts of funny rules. The most recent poll, I think, had us on 3.8. The polls before it had us, 3 of the polls before it had us on over 5. So on balance, we probably are going to make it, but you just don't know until the day. If we don't win Wellington Central and don't get 5%, then, you know, it's almost a wipeout scenario for us.
I think that the people who are standing in Wellington Central are a very good team, and yes, I believe that at least 4 of the candidates would make good members of Parliament, will make reasonable members of Parliament. And I ask you to cast the educated vote, and that's a vote for ACT New Zealand, for Richard Preble, and when you do that, you get 6 members of Parliament for just 1 vote. 6 members of Parliament. 6 members of Parliament. 6 members of Parliament. You get 6 members of Parliament. It's got to be better than 1. I've got to go because I'm going to go and talk on student radio.
Okay. You don't really see people out there going, yeah, I'm national. Those young people out there with the national t-shirts sort of going around the pubs. It's really it's a little bit easier with that because it's a little bit new and trendy and avant-garde. Yeah.
There's a bit of cool about it.
Yeah.
You've got to figure out what you stand for.
The penny is really starting to drop with some of these national voters. That if they vote for Richard Preble in the constituency, they are actually enhancing their position. It's such an unnatural thing for them to understand, or for people to understand, is that you can actually vote for someone else, not your natural constituency, not your natural candidate, to enhance your own party preference.
Interesting, eh? People are in ACT like they might have been in the Young Socialists once upon a time.
Yeah, well, that's a good analogy. Yeah. It's something which is, as I say, avant-garde. It's got a bit of a feel to it. It's radical. That's the word for it. That's where the socialist analogy is good, because it's radical, although not socialist. Okay, Becky, you've got 2 minutes here. Right. Okay, that's ready to go. There's that there as well if you want it.
Right, joining me now is Richard Preble, former Labour Cabinet Minister and now the ACT candidate for Wellington Central. Good morning, Richard. All right, can you tell
Good
us
afternoon, how are you?
Afternoon. Okay, how do you feel about the recent student protests here at Varsity?
How you mean the what?
Occupation.
Well, I'm not in favour of occupations. I think that's a trend, and also a little nervous about it because occupations often end up in tragedy for a few people. A number of students in Auckland have ended up being arrested and the like. I guess when you're 19 you might think it's great fun being arrested. 10 years later when you got it on your record it doesn't seem like such a good idea.
Okay, you claim to have lived in Wellington for many years. There's a lot of kind of scepticism about this. Can you tell us a bit about your past in Wellington?
Well, I don't know who's having the scepticism. I mean, it's a fact. I mean, well, for example, I've been registered on the Wellington Central roll and registered on and have voted in Wellington Central rolls three times in the last 18 years. So by law you have to live there to do that. The other great, when you say sceptical, I mean, does somebody doubt that I was in Parliament for 18 years? I mean, or does someone not know that Parliament's in Wellington? It is true that if I get elected then the constituency barrier doesn't apply, and so by voting for me you actually get 6 MPs, and that's just got to be a good bargain. Thank you very much. And I I do like to make a confession that I personally have personal incentive for wanting to be the member. I do like the thought of being able to go home for tea. Thank you very much.
This is 6 months of the year, invitations. Now that's just 6 months, January to May. Now, bearing in mind, I very rarely ever turn down an invitation. If I've got a gap in the diary, I usually do it. So, how many of those I'd get to go to? Don't know. Half, 40%? Don't know. Now, that's only 6 months. You don't get home for tea in this electorate.
We're going to bring them over and pit lane.
Where's the bloody power steering? You're my favourite television journalist from Capital City TV.
Right, yeah. You're my favourite Labor candidate in Wellington Central.
Yeah, well, that's good. We're a mutual admiration society.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you just want to smile at me or look serious...
Well, that's easy, mate. That's easy. I don't want to look serious.
Okay.
This is a fun morning.
Yeah, it is a fun morning.
You ought to get in one of those, actually. Oh, nice. If you'd been here early, you could have.
Okay. No, you have to shush now and just nod at me, otherwise you're going to wreck me. You'll wreck the item. So just sort of, and we'll just pretend that I'm making some sort of sense. Mark Thomas wasn't happy about the salient poll. Faxed the same press statement to me 3 times.
He was less happy about the cartoon, I think.
Oh, I haven't seen the paper.
Oh, it's a bit nasty.
Is it?
What do you think about a National Party Act coalition, Mr. Thomas? Well, I like Dick.
Well, basically, they've cut the wires off the PA system. Apparently, they've scratched it somewhere. I'm not sure where the scratch is. But they've slashed the tyres and they've bent the windscreen wipers out. The sort of temperature levels increased, with the vandalising of our hoardings in one day. The whole lot, basically the whole lot went down in one day, and we replaced them a couple of days later. Well, we didn't replace all of them, we didn't have enough, so we replaced half of them. Next day, basically a few hours later, they were all down. And this is private property as well, a lot of it's on private property, so some individuals have no respect for other people's possessions.
Talk to me about sources inside the National Party.
Oh, can you?
Yeah, I can. I can say that there have been some people in the National Party that have approached us that basically want the centre-right to have they want National Party to have a partner. They know that the only way that can happen is that if ACT gets representation, and they know in that seat that means us winning the seat. One or two of them have come to us and sort of talked of ways of possibly helping us out, and they've given us a little bit of information here and there. They're people that Mark Thomas would know.
The whole idea now is we're building up to a peak on E-Day, and I think that is still happening with our campaign. It will be very busy. There'll be more blue and more people around on E-Day than any other day.
Mr. Peters is going to come out tomorrow and encourage his voters to vote for me, or tell his voters not to support. And Philippa Bunkel is going to endorse Alex Shaw. So there's all sorts of things. I mean, thank God. And Casper's the gay bar endorsed Alex Shaw. Thank Christ. The National Party president and the Wellington vice president have both refused to sign a letter to members supporting me and supporting the Tick National Twice campaign. Jeff says it would set...
Not because of lack of support.
Well, I think that there are... Jeff said he doesn't want to do it. We wrote a letter for him, basically encouraging... only our members, saying, make sure that you vote for the National and vote for Mark, all the line. He said it would set a precedent that the party president couldn't single out one candidate from all others, and we said, well, we thought that possibly this campaign was a bit different, and he said, well, all candidates say their campaign's different. So then we went to David Bennett. Unfortunately, Jeff got to him first. And David Bennett's unkeen, because it would look like we're panicking. Go to three.
Schools and parents are on alert.
Tonight's TV3CM research poll reveals voters are leaping towards the left just days from the ballot support for Labour and the Alliance is the highest it's been all year, while New Zealand First is in marked decline. Yes!
What was that? Sorry?
Election campaign.
He's a fool because what he has done by suggesting the possibility of coalition with the Nats, he's losing it.
In just the last 10 days.
Richard Prebble is using the voters in this electorate to advance his ambitions for ACT.
New Zealand First doesn't poll well in an electorate like Wellington Central, and I say Sarah saying that probably actually helped me rather than hindered me.
500 voters were polled in tonight's One Network News Colmar Brunton poll with a 4.4% margin of error. When asked which candidate they'd vote for, 30% said Richard Prebble, up 8% from our last poll on September the 13th. Mark Thomas was next with 25%, no change. Alex Shaw is level with him, up 2%. Yes! United Pauline Gardner has 10% of the vote, down 3. Dana Glendinning of the Alliance, 4.2%, also down 3. Sarah Porter has 2.2% of the vote, down 4%, and Robin Corner of the Christian
That's all right. We've won it.
7%.
That's good.
Drop. 17% of people didn't know who they'd vote for.
That's good.
From our last poll. And when voters here are asked which party they'd back, the intentions to vote tactically become clear, and not the way Sarah Porter might want. Her party is last, with 3.7% of votes, down 5% from our last poll.
And I think that combined with the rapid rise in our fortunes, which is beginning to be reflected on Wellington Central, is going to be just fine. You can come to a victory party at the Astoria on Saturday night. And what were the undecideds? 17%. Yippee, that's us. Bye-bye. 17% on the electorate undecided.
So what makes you so confident that's coming to you?
Because it's not going to go to the right wing, it's not going to go to the government.
How do you know?
Conventional wisdom tells us that undecided voters are not those who are voting in that direction. See, it's 12% undecided on the party. That's the significant figure. The extra 5%, I suspect, are people who are uncertain who they're going to vote for and who will stop Richard Prebble. I don't know whether Prebble can now achieve a role. I doubt it. There's just too many people who hate him.
Do you think that Prebble's likely to lose support, or you're just likely to go past them?
I think we're likely to go past them.
So you'll actually win it with more than 30%?
No, I think we'll win it with a little over 30. But that's always been the case. I think I said to you right at the beginning that it was going to be won with just over 30% of the vote, and we'll get it.
Look, I'm picking that I'll win, and I think that my majority will be more than 500. That's the way it's feeling, and I guess that's to some extent on the basis of the campaigning experience I've had in the electorate, although, look, it's MMP, anything could happen. I could lose by 1,000.
And to all your friends and families, everything you think of that, this is just an underhand smuggling trick by ACT.
Well, what do we do?
You've got to come up vigorously and positively and happily fighting.
Yeah. I think the only way to do it, to get the Dom tomorrow, is to have the Prime Minister, I think that maybe it'll take him coming out saying, vote Mark Thomas in Wellington Central.
Well, he's the best person.
Yeah, he is. Can the Prime Minister help me, though? Well, I'm not sure if you heard Midday report. I didn't hear it. But apparently Helen Clark jumped in by saying, well, Mark Thomas, this is the final sort of guttering of Mark Thomas. The only person who can stop National is Alex Shaw. And that's the first issue. The second issue is we've had, James tells me, about a dozen calls into the office today from National Party people who are confused, who wonder if maybe the best thing for them to do is in fact to strategically vote. Yeah. Yes, 417, 416. Yeah. Thanks, Therese. Bye. She'll put it to the PM. She said he's sure he will. that would be the best thing. PM endorses Thomas. Right.
Well, it's always stronger than an endorsement. See, they're all fudging him. It's got to be, he's got to advise our supporters who to vote for.
What I could do, I could put out a release saying, Mark Thomas has today asked the Prime Minister for an endorsement.
He's got no choice, has he?
I'm going to phone the Dom and say the Prime Minister will have a statement for you later on.
Yes. He's got to come out positively urging his people to support his candidate. Otherwise we'll do him.
No shit.
The mood out there is too bloody good. They envy you, Mark.
Why do you envy me?
Well, you can't lose.
Education, Alex Shaw.
Vote Thomas. Vote Mark Thomas. Vote Mark Thomas in Wellington Central. Vote Mark Thomas in Wellington Central. Vote Mark Thomas in Wellington Central. Alex Shaw is going down. Alex Shaw is going down. Mark Thomas is the only person to beat Richard Prebble. Where is Alex Shaw anyway? Who is Alex Shaw anyway? Alex Shaw is going down.
Squeeze it up. Work those biceps. Take it down. Squeezing it back up. Nice and smooth. Squeeze it up. Work those biceps. Take it down.
What's going on, right?
Oh, there was just a report that the PM said something on. The PM apparently has made a comment on TV3 about strategic voting in Wellington Central, which I need to just clarify. Hi, did you see it? Tell me exactly what he said. Is that what he said? So, I mean, he couldn't have been misinterpreted as saying that he was going to get in by the list. Do I say, as I'm inclined to Anna, the Prime Minister's obviously out of touch with what's happening in Wellington Central? Well, what we have to... Yeah. Okay, because we want to draw in the sympathy vote, because people will react against Bolger. You know, I'm not interested in sour grapes or anything. I'm interested in getting the best spin out of this. And I'm just thinking that, I mean, should I say anything like, I think it's surprising the Prime Minister, who doesn't comment on polls, would make that comment on the basis of one poll. I've read in all polls. Because, I mean, it's bizarre that he made the comment. No, actually, what I could say is I'm sure that what he meant is that Prebble is going to get in on the list. Yeah. He did say that I was a fine candidate and he felt very sorry for me, but that it looked like ACT was going to be in Parliament because Prebble was going to win in Wellington Central. Which is a little disappointing. The thing that's unusual is he never comments on polls. I mean, you know, that's the thing he's famous for never commenting on polls. And one poll has come out saying this. It's well, bizarre. So, Anna, hi, Mark Thomas here. I'm very well. Okay, can we just go off the record for a moment? So your understanding is that a strategy of saying that Prebble was going to win was, but with the reason perhaps being to keep ACT happy because they've been really pissed off with the way we've gone about coalition building. Yeah, right. Okay, well, back on the record. I mean, my reaction is to say I assume the Prime Minister thinks, as I do, that ACT will cross the threshold, and that when he said that Mr Prebble was going to be in Parliament, that's what he meant. Okay, Anna. Thanks. Bye-bye. Fucking prick. Let's go. Never rains at pause. Well, it's gone from kneecapping to full frontal assaults, let me tell you.
Did you see this coming?
You mean like the Black Bulges thing? No, I can't say that I did actually. I'm going to park illegally on a broken yellow line. No, I can't say that I Bernie's smiling. That's nice. I can't say that I did see it coming. No. But it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, the people will decide.
Loyalty is a two-way process. And we give our leader, Jim Bolger, as much support as he gives us. We can still come first, we can still come second, we can still come third. I want to come first. I just hope there's an opportunity to get through today the fact that ACT is at 6 to 7% in the polls. They do not need Wellington Central or ring true. And hopefully the voters here will vote for someone who can look after them the best. And that makes it a Shaw Thomas race, not a Prebble race. But I'm not sure people have good of understanding of the principles of MMP to understand that. Campaigns don't win elections. They don't. They boost the morale of your own supporters. That's about as far as it goes. Right, we're finished.
Hope you didn't say anything silly. No.
The whole vibe is really, really good. What a great day for it.
Ladies and gentlemen, Richard Prebble!
No, that was like 3 times better than I expected. I think that's how the Nazis must have felt at Nuremberg. Yeah. no, that's not for public consumption, they're coming. Yeah. But I mean, seriously, it was amazing. Yeah.
First at 5:30, this is Capital Nightly News. Good evening, Wellington. I'm Grant Walker. Strategic voting looks set to decide the vital Wellington Central electorate race after the Prime Minister severely damaged his party's chances of winning the seat by effectively endorsing ACT leader Richard Prebble. Jim Bolger's comments have been followed by a call from Labour for National to totally withdraw from the race in the electorate so voters can have a clear choice between right and left. Capital's Glyn Jones has been following the last day of the election campaign.
I'm not sure if I've got it on.
Really good work. Plug me in. It's there, over here.
Thank you, Ty.
I haven't asked for anyone to withdraw. This has been the most fun campaign I've ever been involved in. I think it's got to be good for democracy to have 4 strong candidates.
But what the Prime Minister was saying was an opinion, not borne out in fact by the evidence. There have been numerous polls in this electorate. I've been fortunate to lead in every one, except the last one. And of course, one poll is not an election make, it's the trend that counts.
No, but it's the last poll before the election, isn't it? Jim Bolger says his prediction that Richard Prebble will win in Wellington Central is not an endorsement of the candidate. He says he was simply studying the facts as he sees them. Well, to the weather. Tomorrow, election day, rain and gales.
Done.
I haven't been really convinced by any of the candidates for Wellington Central that they're going to do anything particular for Wellington.
I thought the whole idea of MNP was that you could actually vote for the party you wanted.
Anything's better than what they had before.
I don't think Rebel will get in, but, you know, what do I know? Man on the street. How you doing?
First no, our tail one living eyes 3, Asia Pacific new, and no. Christian Coalition no, ethnic minority no.
I was out in Berlin a couple of weeks ago doing a program.
6, National 46, Alliance 13, Act 8.
Oh, how funny! What was that? Fire alarm.
But that would be good.
The act had to evacuate the headquarters because of fire alarm. You guys just been there, haven't you? It was you, wasn't it?
What we just had is a bit of a fire alarm go off, and I think it's from the place across the road, and it's obviously putting a bit of a dampener on things, so we've all had to move out, and you know, we're all eager to find out what's happening, and in the election, of course.
If organisation on the ground on the day counts for anything, we'd win hands down, because everybody else seemed to fall to pieces, but I wouldn't have a bloody clue.
This order. 15, 14 and 14.
First progress report from Radio New Zealand, we are ahead in Central.
A house of 126, no overhangs and no hangovers so far. We're standing by from LA.
Thornton's not ours.
No, there you go. The Thomas boat's collapsed.
You will have heard Michael Roberts say that we are projecting that you're going to win the seat.
That was Thornton School, which is not one of the booths we would expect to be winning, and neither we did.
How quick you looking at the moment? Is that?
There was doing well.
We're beating Mark Thomas very competitive.
I think that
It's looking okay. It's looking okay.
We look very comfortable in the mighty seats, and we're pushing on the big field. And I just think it's a wonderful result. I would say the high 30s for national. How high are we talking about?
Well, as I say, there's room to move there.
There's five. Well, there's Boxhill Candala, there's Thornton Bridge Club, there's Karori Tennis Club.
Yeah.
Sorry, Karori Kindergarten.
There's another Karori that's come through.
And what's that?
That was Rebel Margin.
He was like working on TV. Thank you. Oh, I'm in heaven. Oh my God. I don't know, but he must give you a hug as well. I'm on fire.
Are you conceding Wellington Central at this stage, Alec?
It seems, Ian, that Richard Preble has won the seat. Well, one has to respect the views of the people in Wellington. I'm obviously disappointed.
In the early days of the campaign, it looked as though Mark Thomas and you were fighting it out for the lead. There's been a sudden surge to ACT in the late days of the campaign, and the national votes collapsed.
Indeed, I have to say there as well that I'm pleased to be a member of the party where I can rely on my leader not to need to have me in the last 2 hours of the campaign.
I like it.
And Ian, I feel desperately sorry for Mark Thomas. One of the things about this campaign...
Thanks, Alec. I'm sorry I have to interrupt you there because we're going over to Alan Clark.
Have your attention for a second. In 15 minutes, Mark's going to ACT at Chicago. We want as many people to go with him as possible. The champagne's free.
Richard is keen to come down. He doesn't want to annoy you guys at all.
No,
he doesn't want to delay, but he's just super cautious.
Sure. Okay. So essentially, we can't concede to them because they're fucking disorganised.
Shit, can you hear what he's saying, mate? Rock and roll,
I was prepared to come down and talk to you guys and to concede defeat, but I have to tell you that to be treated like this is absolutely inexcusable, Glenn, and I am appalled.
Don't be silly.
Why are they taking a picture of his phone conversation? How ridiculous.
Okay, let's go.
Would you please wait? I'm talking. It absolutely reinforces all my fears about ACT, would you please? It reinforces all my fears about the sort of politics that ACT brings here. Okay, mate? We're going back to our headquarters now. I will talk to you later.
Have a wank. So you want your picture taken? Oh, what a loser!
Okay. Bye-bye.
In fact, do that. Hold
on. Who are you? Alex!
I've just been down to his headquarters, Pauline, to concede, and we were denied entry. Unbelievable. Hey, whereabouts are you?
I can go ahead and get married without worrying about what's going to happen to the relationship. I mean, I'm relieved to get rid of the job, and I'm disappointed to get rid of the job. You know, you work hard. If I thought that I hadn't done a good job, it would be easier or less disappointing. But I know I've done a good job.
Some things happen. Tides come in and tides go out. This is part of the tide. We're going to have to have a nice, good party. We'll be friends now.
We'll see. It might take a few years. We'll see.
I think I'm feeling really cheated. I don't know if I could identify anybody in particular, but I don't know. It's not fair. No, it's a bit more than that. I think, Mark, strategic voting's all okay when you get the government you want. I mean, we've got our coalition partner now, and that's, you know, winning Wellington Central was his insurance, as he kept on calling it, but that was Prebble's insurance against someone's hopes and dreams. And I don't know. I think Mark's hurting a lot more than he'll ever let on about this. So. Politics sucks, man. No, I as I said, you know, I'm just had all my idealism sucked out of me. I think it doesn't work the way it's meant to.
at about the Wednesday after that poll, the Colmar-Brunton poll, I said to you 55 to 60% chance of winning, and that's what I thought. Then the Prime Minister came out, basically endorsed Richard Prebble, and that really sewed it up for us. That turned the result. I mean, that made an equivocal victory to us a certain victory to us, and it's basically the fruits of the victory. And of course, we've got a very, very remarkable product.
Some people have taken the opportunity and voted for me locally and still giving a Labour vote on the list. I hope they won't be disappointed in doing that. I can assure you that all the colleagues I have in Parliament will make sure.
A lot more difficult than it otherwise might have been. Thomas, thanks very much for talking to us, and forced also to commiserate with you.
Thank you everyone for this wonderful party, a wonderful night for New Zealand. It will mean better living standards. It will mean better public education. It will mean affordable housing. It will mean our students not having a lifetime of debt. In recent weeks I have felt the groundswell coming back to Labour. I know that many people have expressed the hope that I will break through that glass ceiling and be the first woman Prime Minister.
I can't say I expected a win, Tony. I didn't.
Really?
Not really, no. One of my campaign team said he was bringing a feather tonight to knock me over with when I won. I think he's kept the feather in his pocket. I've now got to find a job to do, and I have to go back and talk to my family tomorrow morning, sort out what I'm going to do. That's not going to be easy. We've done something like, I don't know, around 30 meetings together, and I have to say Mark has behaved constantly with, well, more than dignity actually. He's been an affable and jovial person to have on the platform with me. And I must say also that I must pay credit to Mark's courage over the last 24 hours. And I'll ask you to listen to anything that he might want to say. Mark.
Look, Alec, thanks very much. I appreciate that. You may have said on television words that I was unable to say for various reasons. It's been an interesting campaign, full of challenges, full of unexpected turns. I think that this was an outcome that neither of us wanted. However, the Christians are dog tucker, as Alex said. But despite everything, despite our real differences on a number of issues, I think that we were able to come together and have a good campaign and have a good fun. And I'm just sorry that the result that we got here was not the result that any of us wanted. But at the end of the day, this is democracy. We've all got a lot to learn about MMP, haven't we? My party in particular. And obviously I'll be trying to help my party with its learning process over the next couple of years. Thanks, everyone.
We went down to concede.
I don't want to let you on. We got in, we got upstairs, and the security guy said, "Are you expected?" I said, "I think so."
Unbelievable.
Well, anyway, Pauline turned up.
Oh, has she?
Is this area of stability?
Oh, God. Happy families.
Ladies and gentlemen, would you also please welcome Pauline Gardner? Rumour would have it was not a half-bad constituency MP.
Sorry about that. Yeah, fight. Good fight.
Do you want to say anything to them? Do you want to say anything to them?
Thanks very much, team. I'm sure that some of you have phoned my office for help from time to time, and I'll be glad to hand over all your files to Breville.
We don't know how lucky we are. I've a feeling I have stumbled on something substantial. We don't know how lucky we are. We don't know how lucky we are. I was speaking to a mate of mine just the other day. A guy called Bruce Bayliss, actually, who lives up our way. He's been away on a round-the-world 8th Army do for a year, more or less. I said, describe the global position, Bruce. He said, Fred, it's a mess. We don't know how lucky we are in this country. We don't know how lucky we are. We don't know how lucky we are. We don't know how lucky we are. There's a guy I know who lives in town. I see him about once a year, I suppose. He's had a coronary since Easter. He's got a hemorrhage in his ear. He went bankrupt a couple of weeks back, and now his wife's left him too. I said, you're looking odd, mate. You're looking queer. What are you going to do? He said, we don't know how lucky we are to live in this joint, Fred. We don't know how lucky we are, he repeated. We don't know how lucky we are. We don't know how lucky we are. So when things are looking really bad and you're thinking of giving it away, remember New Zealand's a cracker. And I reckon come what may, if things get appallingly bad and we're all under constant attack, remember we want to see good clean ball, and for God's sake, feed your backs. We don't know how fortunate we are to have that place. We don't know how propitious are the circumstances, Frederick. We don't know how lucky we are, mate. We don't know how lucky we are.
Turn off that fucking television camera.